from the book Adabul Mufrad about the etiquettes of, as written by Sheikh Bukhari rahimahullah. So today we're talking about the chapter about making dua against someone who had done you wrong, who had been unjust to you, dhulm. So we talked last few weeks about certain etiquettes of dua, how one should start with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making salah on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, make your dua inclusive, general, don't make it very long, make it concise, to the point. And today talking about how you can make dua against those who have done you wrong. حدثنا الحسن بن الربيع قال حدثنا ابن إدريس عن ليث عن محارب بن دثار عن جابر رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول اللهم أصلح لي سمعي وبصري واجعلهما الوارثين مني وانصرني على من ظلمني وأرني منه ثأري. هذا الحديث فيه في سنده شيء من ضعف، فيه أحد الرواة ليث بن سليم فيه تدليس، لكن له شواهد من أحاديث أخرى ترفعه إلى درجة الحسن. يقول اللهم أصلح لي سمعي وبصري واجعلهما الوارثين مني وانصرني على من ظلمني وأرني منه ثأري. In this hadith, Jabir radiallahu anhu report that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, making dua, O Allah, preserve my hearing and my vision, and let them inherit me. That means I die and they still have my hearing and vision. So ask Allah to keep His health on him till the last minute, and support me against those who have done me wrong, those who are unjust to me, and give me my revenge from them. The hadith, in these wordings, there is a narrator that's called Layth ibn Salim, and he's what the ulama call mudallis. Mudallis means sometimes he will skip one narrator because he's not trustworthy and mention it the next one who is trustworthy. And tadlis in the chain of narration has different levels and different reasons. Some of the reasons are bad, where somebody is trying to put a weak hadith and people think that it's good because you look at the man, okay, he's narrating from somebody trustworthy, from a tabi'i, well-known tabi'i, and so on, and he's skipping somebody in between. But a lot of the mudallisin are people who are trustworthy in themselves, but they know their narrator has a problem. Either he trusts him and other people don't, so they don't want to mention him and people start to discredit him. Or the narrator he's narrating from is wanted by the government and he doesn't want to mention it. So if he's like at the time of the Hajjaj, he was looking for Sa'id ibn Jubayr. Sa'id ibn Jubayr is a alim. A lot of people learn from him. So if somebody narrates, like Al-Hasan al-Basri, and he says, Sa'id ibn Jubayr told me, he heard from Abdullah ibn Abbas, Al-Hajjaj, where did you meet Sa'id ibn Jubayr? Where is he now? So he will skip Sa'id ibn Jubayr and he will say right away from Ibn Abbas. So that's where the muhaddithin say, well, if he's such a person, his hadith considered slightly weak because he doesn't have ill intention. If you bring another narration with a connected chain of narration, then it's acceptable. So it is slightly da'if, but can be accepted to be raised to al-Hasan. But these mudallisin, they are careful, they don't lie. They don't say, this person told me. They say, this hadith was narrated from that person. So this is what they call an'ana, an fulan. So from him, and not directly. If they say, I heard from him, or he told me, he's not a liar. They told him and heard from them. But we said an fulan, that means he's mudallis. So Layth was one of them. But this hadith has other narrations for each part of it, will make this hadith hasan. Otherwise, the Imam Bukhari would not even bring it in his book. And as we said before, Adab al-Mufrad, Imam Bukhari did not put the criteria of it as strict as he put it for his Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih Bukhari had put the most strict criteria for the chain of narrations that nobody else has done. He himself in other books did not follow that, but he wanted to put the most authentic. So here in the Kitab al-Adab Mufrad, he followed the general rules. If you're talking about a hadith that doesn't talk about halal and haram, talking about general topics of manners, and you have other ahadith confirming it, it's okay to narrate with a slightly weak narration. وحدثنا موسى قال حدثنا حماد عن محمد بن عمرو عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول اللهم متعني بسمعي وبصري واجعلهما الوارث مني وانصرني على عدوي وأريني منه ثأري. إذن هذا حديث آخر بنفس المعنى جاء من رواية أخرى. الصحابي الأول كان جابر وله سلسلة من التابعين والمشايخ، هذه عن أبي هريرة وله غيرهما من الرواة. وهذا أخرجه الترمذي والبزار وقال الترمذي حسن صحيح وصححه الحاكم على شرط مسلم ووافقه الذهبي. إذن جاء هذا السند الصحيح وافق السند الأول. The second narration confirms the first one. The first one was narrated from the Sahabi Jabir ibn Abdullah. This one narrated from Abu Huraira. His students and their students are different from the first hadith, and they're all trustworthy. So the second hadith is Hasan by itself, accepted, all of them trustworthy, and it makes the first hadith trustworthy by association. Hasanun لغيره. وحدثنا علي بن عبد الله قال حدثنا مروان بن معاوية قال حدثنا سعد بن طارق بن أشيم الأشجعي قال حدثني أبي قال كنا نغدو إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيجيء الرجل وتجيء المرأة فيقول يا رسول الله كيف أقول إذا صليت؟ فيقول قل اللهم اغفر لي وارحمني واهدني وارزقني فقد جمعنا لك دنياك وآخرتك. المغفرة والرحمة، الهداية والرزق، جمعت كل الخير في الدنيا والآخرة. In this hadith, the Sahabi narrates that someone will be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man or a woman will ask and tell him, what kind of dua should we say in our salah? And he teaches them to say, Allahumma ghfirli warhamni wahdini warzuqni. Ighfirli warhamni wahdini warzuqni. Maghfira, ighfirli, forgive. Arhamni, mercy, have mercy on me. Ihdini, guide me. So all these are matters that relate to deen, warzuqni, and provide him sustenance. See, they gather everything in dunya and akhirah. What else do you want? So you live guided, Allah will have mercy on you, He will forgive you, and He's providing for you. What else do you want? باب من دعا بطول العمر. هنا يشير الإمام البخاري أن بعض العلماء كرهوا أن يدعو للإنسان بطول العمر ورأوه من فعل الأعاجم، فجاء ببعض الآثار يثبت أن الدعاء بطول العمر يجوز. فحدثنا قتيبة قال حدثنا الليث عن يزيد بن أبي حبيب عن أبي الحسن مولى أم قيس بنت محصن عن أم قيس أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لها ما قالت طال عمرها ولا نعلم امرأة عمرت ما عمرت. وهنا الأصل ما قالت طال عمرها، فلا أعلم امرأة عمرت، لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لها ما قالت طال عمرها، أي دعا لها بطول العمر، ولا نعلم امرأة عمرت ما عمرت. In the first narration, there was one of the Sahabiya named Qais, and Rasulullah ﷺ made dua for her that Allah prolong her life. And the narrator said, we don't know a woman that ever lived as long as she did. So it means here they're narrating that Rasulullah ﷺ himself had made that dua. And the reason for that, that Qais, her son died. So she felt very sorry for him. And she asked the person who was washing him, don't make when you wash him with very cold water. That will hurt him, might kill him. He's dead. But she's still treating him as if he's a live child. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he heard about that, he smiled and he made dua for her that Allah would prolong his life. But she still have mercy on her son, even if he's dead. إذن هذه مات ابنها فقالت للمغسل لا تغسله بماء بارد فيقتله وهو ميت. فلما سمع الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال تبسم وقال دعا لها بطول العمر. هذه ما زالت فيها رحمة لابنها حتى بعد موته. وحدثنا عارم قال حدثنا سعيد بن زيد عن سنان قال حدثنا أنس قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يدخل علينا أهل البيت فدخل يوما فدعا لنا. إذن أهل بيت أنس مقصود هنا. فدعا لنا فقالت أم سليم أم أنس خويدمك أي الخادم تصغيره من باب التلطف ألا تدعو له. إذا تسأل أم سليم أنس لأنس أن يدعو له الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال اللهم أكثر ماله وولده وأطل حياته واغفر له. فدعا لي ثلاث مرات. فدعا له أن يكثر ماله وولده ويطل عمره ويغفر له. قال فدفنت أنس يقول في حياته 103 من أولاد وأولاد الأولاد وأولاد أولاد أولاد. هذا عدا من حي من الأموات 103. وإن ثمرتي لتطعم في السنة مرتين. البساتين وما عنده من مال بدل أن يعطي موسم واحد يعطي موسمين. وطالت حياتي حتى استحييت من الناس وأرجو المغفرة. إذا رأى 2 ويرجو الثالثة وهو المغفرة. Anas ibn Malik, as you know, he served Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam during his life in Medina. Anas was a young boy at that time. But it was very common for poor people that would send their children to help more family they can afford. So he stayed with him, took care of the Prophet ﷺ, to bring him water, he will take care of his affairs and so on. So once the mother of Anas, her name was Sulaym, and Rasulullah used to frequent visit him, and she told him, your young servant here, Anas, want to make dua for him. So he made dua for him in 3 things. That his life will be long. The first one, that he will have abundance of money and children. His life will be long and he'll be forgiven. So he's saying, Anas, later on in life, he's saying he's seen it. His children were so numerous that in his life, the one they died were 130. That's besides the ones that lived. You're talking about children, grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. So he buried 130, so the life are much more than these. And the fruits of his land, instead of giving a harvest once, he will give harvest twice in a year. So this is the first one. أكثر ماله ولده وأطل عمره. He said, I lived so long, I start feeling ashamed from people looking at me. I'm living so long and nobody's living that long. He was one of the longest living Sahaba. He lived through the Khulafa al-Rashidin, 4 of them, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali. He lived through the life of Muawiyah. He lived through the life of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. And then he lived part of the life of the children of Abdul Malik Marwan and Al-Walid and Sulaiman, until he lived at the time of Al-Hajjaj. So he lived over 100 years. So he said, I've seen this part, and I hope I will get the third part, اغفر له. You will get the forgiveness. So here the dua, Rasulullah make dua for him that he live long. Now the caveat here, that this you make this dua for a person to live long and live a healthy life and a life of taqwa, of piety. That's a life that one needs, not just living and existing. So it is very common, yet you will see it, that people will make dua just for somebody to live long. It should be living long with health and good deeds. That's the best kind of dua. So inshallah we'll start from Adabul Mufrad. We read now the book Al-Risala, Imam al-Shafi'i. Just to remind the brothers about Imam al-Shafi'i, his name Muhammad ibn Idris. He was from Bani Hashim, from Quraysh. So he's a descendant from the tribe of the Prophet ﷺ, although he himself wasn't a descendant of Ali and Fatima, but he's still considered Qurashi. He was born the year 150 Hijri, the year that Imam Abu Hanifa died. So the four Imam of Fiqh, Imam Abu Hanifa was first, then Imam Malik, then Imam Shafi'i, then Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And Imam Abu Hanifa was in Iraq, and he gathered hadith as much that he could, but he didn't have an abundance of hadith as other fuqaha, so he used a lot deduction, yes. So he used it a lot in his fiqh. Imam Malik in Medina, he was able to be contemporary to a lot of the tabi'een, the students of the Sahaba and their students, and he gathered a lot of ahadith and he put it in Al-Muwatta. Muwatta in Arabic means made easy. And his book, before the book of Imam al-Bukhari, was considered the most authentic book written, until Imam Bukhari came, written a book that has more strict criteria. And Imam Malik, since he had abundance of hadith, he will make his fiqh mostly dependent on the hadith. Of course, Quran, everybody uses Quran. And he will make deduction only when there is no hadith in it. And Imam al-Shafi'i, he was born in nowadays Gaza. And his father died when he was young. He, by age 7, memorized Quran. By age 10, he memorized the whole Muwatta of Imam Malik. And that was like the abundance. So he memorized Quran and Hadith of his time. And then he moved, after his father died, he moved to Mecca. And then he lived some time in the desert with his uncles from the tribe of Al-Azd. And he learned the formal Arabic Fusha. And he was very good in poetry, and he learned a lot about the history and the lineage of all the Arabian tribes. And then he moved to Medina. And in Medina, he met Imam Malik. And people told him, he memorized your Muwatta. He said, sure. So he tested him. And he passed with flying colors. Everything he tested him, he memorized it. Memorizing it doesn't mean memorizing the hadith. Memorize the men and the chain of narration with every variation that's mentioned in the book. So he stayed with Imam Malik in Medina and learned from his fuqah. Then he moved to Iraq and learned from the student of Imam Abu Hanifa. And so he gathered between Ilm al-Hadith and al-Ra'i together. And he started making fiqh that sometimes will go with this Imam or some this Imam, sometimes his own opinion, because now he reached the level of ijtihad. He can make his own ijtihad. So he had students, he had a lot of followers in Iraq. And then when the fitna of al-Mu'tazila came, with those who trying to use logic against the text, the Quran and Sunnah, and trying to force on the people the idea that Quran was created and logic takes precedence over Quran and Sunnah. A lot of the khulafa at that time, al-Ma'mun, al-Mu'tasim, and a few of the Khalif after that, they believed in that, and they started persecuting the ulama that disagree with them. Mu'tazila said, whoever doesn't agree with that is kafir. Some of the ulama were beaten, some were imprisoned, some were killed. So Imam Shafi'i left Iraq for them. He said, I'm not going to argue with you on this point. And he moved to Egypt, to Masr. And in Masr, he started teaching his fiqh. At that time, Masr was like 100% following Madhab al-Maliki, Imam Malik. So that was, by the time he lived in Masr, I think like 10, 15 years. By the time he died, almost everybody in Masr was Shafi'i. So till nowadays, Madhab al-Shafi'i is the most predominant in Masr. There's some Maliki and some Hanafi in there. But his following of the Sunnah and understanding the deduction, the rules of deduction, made him a prominent faqih. So his book, Al-Risala, was one of the earliest books that established the rules of making deduction or making ruling. How do you understand the Book of Allah? How do you understand Quran? How do you understand the Hadith as it relates to Quran? And he started explaining that you cannot take one sentence or one ayah and make hukum with it and making fiqh with it without understanding everything that's connected with it. And he gave an example that a word might be general, but it has a specific meaning, specific exclusion. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. Anything that is dead is haram. If you read this from Quran, and you say, I'm just going to take Quran, if you put your net to catch fish, you come after 2 hours, you find the fish in the net dead. That means haram to eat them. Rasulullah said, أُحِلَّتْ لَنَا مَيْتَتَانِ السَّمَكْ وَالْجَرَادِ. They say dead animals are 2 kinds that are allowed for us to eat. The fish and the locust. The locust at that time, when they used to catch them in nets and roast them, and they would store them for the winter. A lot of us, of course, we find that disgusting nowadays, but it was common. Till nowadays, I've seen it in Arabia, Saudi Arabia, that sometimes you see the Bedouins coming with full sacks of roasted locust, and some people eat them as a delicacy. So, the same thing with the dab. The dab is like the big lizard of Arabia. I see them selling them. You see after Salat al-Jum'ah, a Bedouin with his Hilux Toyota pickup truck parked next to the masjid. In it, there's like 4 or 5 of these big lizards that are like 2 feet, 3 feet long. And some people eat them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once he was offered a dab, this lizard. He didn't want to eat it. So Sahaba asked, is it haram? He said, it's not haram, but I don't like it. It's not a food that my people eat. And Khalid bin Walid would at that time say, well, if it is halal, I'm eating it, grab it and start eating it. So, giving here the example how Imam Shafi'i started saying that the text, the Quran, you need to understand it in context with other parts of the Quran. You need to understand it with the language of the Arabs at that time, because the language that is used is the Fusha language, and you need to understand it in context with the Hadith. And the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of it comes and confirms the Quran, some of it come and explain and expand to the Quran. He gave an example of Salah. In Quran, the order for Salah is general. In the details of Salah, in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you're going to pray, how you're going to pray, what you say when you pray. Otherwise, you just look at the Quran, you don't know that there is 5 prayers. You don't know the time of the prayers. You don't know how many ruk'ah in each prayer, and so on. So you need these details. And there are parts of the Sunnah that comes only in Sunnah. It's not mentioned in Quran at all. And there are part of the Sunnah that will limit the meaning of certain ayat in Quran. So what they call nasakh. Doesn't mean canceling it, but canceling the general meaning that people think of and making it to a specific meaning. As we said that, like the ayah of punishing theft, in Quran, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. أي السارق أو السارقة تقطع أيديهما. لم تحدد مقدار السرقة، لم تحدد استثناءات، ومحدد إلى أي مقدار من اليد. هل تقطع إلى الكف؟ هل تقطع إلى المرفقين؟ هل تقطع إلى العضد؟ هذا كله يد. فاغسلوا أيديكم إلى المرافق. فجاءت السنة يقطع إلى المعصم، ولا يقطع إلا فيما زاد عن ربع دينار، ولا يقطع إلا إذا سرق من حرز، من مكان كان محبوسا. So the ayah of theft in the Quran said a man or woman, when they steal, you cut off their hand. Hand in Arabic means everything, anything that include the fingers to the wrist, to the elbows, to the shoulder. All this is hand. In ayat al-wudu, wash your hands till the elbows. This is all hand. So which part of the hand? The hadith mentioned that it's till the wrist. The second thing, that it needs to be a certain minimum. Somebody stole an apple, stole a sandwich, he's not going to be hand cut off. Somebody who stole to feed his family, his children, there's dire necessity, they don't get punished with that. And the theft has to be from a protected area. Somebody that leaves his phone or computer out in the public, on the street, somebody pick it up. Although it's technically a theft, took something that doesn't belong to him, but it's not a theft that deserves this kind of punishment, because there is some negligence from protecting it. So there's certain rules of it that came from the Sunnah, explaining that this you cannot just see anybody, somebody picked up a pen and left, you come and cut off his hand. You say you're a thief. Quran said you need to cut off your hand. No. And I said, as we said before, the ayat of jihad, that tells you, you need to fight non-Muslims. Well, find any non-Muslim? No. The other ayat in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah, you fight those who fight you. And when you fight, you don't kill women, children, elderly, the sick, the people of religion, and so on. Those who are not on your faith, and they're not killing you, they're not kicking you out of your house, you can deal with them fairly. Even if they're relatives, you can be kind to them. So these ayat, you should be understood as the general context of the whole Quran and the whole hadith, so you cannot be taken out of context. So now Imam al-Shafi'i is going to talk about al-nasakh wal-mansukh in Quran, how the meaning is not general. The general meaning, mansukh, will be cancelled to a specific meaning, taking it from other ayat of Quran, giving examples from the hadith. Now he's going to take examples what in ijma' al-fuqaha, what the Muslimin have all accepted. قال تعالى كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the order was, when one of you is about to die, he writes a will to leave money for his parents and the relatives. But then in Surah Al-Nisa, it gave details. How much the children will get, how much the wife will get, how much the fathers, the parents will get, how much the brothers will get. So, which one are you going to apply? That means they can inherit and still write them a will? This is what they mention in the Quran. The hadith came, لا وصية لوارث. Once a person has inheritance prescribed in the Quran, you cannot add them in the will. Okay, in the will, how much you can will your money? Because in Quran say you give these shares for the children what? After a debt is paid or the will is executed. So can somebody put in a will all his wealth? No. And one of the Sahaba, he said that I'm going to be dying. I have only one daughter and I have a lot of money. And I'm going to donate most of my money. My daughter will have enough. So someone said, no, you can't do it. He said, I'm going to do 2/3. Say, you cannot, that's too much. He said, I'm going to do 1/2. He said, that's too much. He said, I'm going to do 1/3. He said, 1/3, and even that's considered too much. It's better less than 1/3. So know from the Sunnah, the maximum amount of money a person can write in a will is 1/3. It's not mentioned in the Quran. You can write a will. It doesn't tell you how much. So all of these coming from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قال وجدنا أهل الفتية ومن حفظنا عنه من أهل العلم والمغازي من قريش وغيرهم لا يختلفون في أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال عام الفتح لا وصية لوارث ولا يقتل مؤمن بكافر ويأثرونه عن من حفظوا عنه ممن لقوا من أهل العلم والمغازي فهذا نقل عامة عن عامة. So he said, we got this hadith from all the ulama that we met. All of them got it, so it's become a common knowledge, ijma' from all the ulama, that when somebody is inheriting prescribed in Quran, he cannot be included in the will. باب الفرائض التي فرضها الله أنزلها نصا. Now he's going to talk about what Allah had made an obligation as a text in Quran, and then he's going to bring example what's mentioned in Sunnah, and then we'll bring example what's mentioned in Ijma'. So the ones were text in Quran, قال جل ثناؤه والذين يرمون المحصنات ثم لم يأتوا بأربعة شهداء فاجلدوهم 80 جلدة ولا تقبلوا لهم شهادة أبدا وأولئك هم الفاسقون. قال الشافعي فالمحصنات هنا البوالغ الحرائر وأن الإحصان اسم جامع لمعان مختلفة. إذن الذي يرمي المرأة العفيفة الحرة التي لم يعرف عنها زنا يرميها بالزنا صراحة أو تعريضا ولم يأتي بأربع شهداء على فعل الزنا منها فعقوبته جلدة 80 جلدة ويعتبر فاسقا ولا تقبل شهادته أبدا. ثم تأتي الآية من بعدها إلا الذين تابوا من بعد ذلك وأصلحوا. In Surah AlNur, after prescribing the punishment for committing adultery, that for men and women that will be 100 lashes, the hadith explained it. This is for those who were not previously married. The ayah after that, and those who accused the innocent woman of zina, and they did not bring 4 witnesses on it, their punishment, so slandering in this matter and their honor, they will be punished by lashed 80 times. They will be considered a fasiq and their testimony will never be accepted. The ayah after that said, unless they repent and they show signs of being a good person, then their testimony will be accepted later. So here, just slandering a woman, accusing her of adultery, or saying it, or mentioning a word that insinuate that, or accusing a person that he's bastard, that his mother committed adultery, and he cannot have 4 men, trustworthy witnesses saying they've seen her in the act. If you cannot do that, then he'll be punished 80 lashes. والذين يرمون أزواجهم ولم يكن لهم شهداء إلا أنفسهم فشهادة أحدهم 4 بشهادات بالله إنه لمن الصادقين والخامسة أن لعنة الله عليه إن كان من الكاذبين. فلما فرق الله بين حكم الزوج والقاذف سواه فحد القاذف سواه. إذا هناك فرق بين الزوج حين يقتل زوجته وبين القاذف العام إلا أن يأتي ب4 شهداء أخرج الزوج باللعان من الحد. فدل أن قذف المحصنات الذين أريدوا بالجلد قذفه الحرائر البوالغ غير الأزواج. And the ayat later on, they say, and for a man accusing his woman of committing adultery, he will swear if he doesn't have witnesses. He's the only one, either witnesses or highly suspecting it. He goes to the judge and swears 4 times that he's saying the truth. And the 5th one, if he's lying, the la'na of Allah will fall upon him. He will be cursed, he will be out of the mercy of Allah, going to hellfire if he's lying. So he's saying, well, that means there's difference. A slandering person that's not married to that woman, he needs 4 witnesses, otherwise he'll be punished. A husband doesn't need 4 witnesses. He swears 4 times that he's saying the truth. The 5th time that the wrath of Allah, he will be cursed by Allah, going to hellfire. So that means slander is not the same, different, coming from different people. وقد أمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الفرقة بينهما. So when a man make this li'an on his wife, right away they're separated. And he cannot marry her again. The judge said they're divorced and he will leave her. He doesn't have the choice to bring her back. وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ثم بين أي شهر هو فقال شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So when Allah ordered about making Siyam, Surah Al-Baqarah, say for the believers, Siyam made an obligation on you as it was on nations before you, so you have taqwa, counted days, so whoever witnessed a month, they should fast it. Then the ayah after that explained it, Shahr Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. قال الشافعي فما علمت أحدا من أهل العلم بالحديث قبلنا تكلف أن يروي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن الشهر المفروض صوم شهر رمضان الذي بين شعبان وشوال لمعرفتهم بشهر رمضان من الشهور واكتفائهم منه بأن الله فرضه. So this ayah, when it was mentioned in the Quran, was enough. You don't need nobody to tell you, oh, this is the month of Ramadan, that's between Sha'ban and Shawwal. Well, everybody knows Ramadan is. So here, a text that came an obligation, fard from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Quran, sufficient. You don't need any more explanation from it. It's very clear. And he mentioned a lot of other examples with divorce and mentioning all the details in divorce that mentioned in the Quran. Then he goes to the 2nd chapter, the obligation, what is fard, that came from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. الفرائض المنصوصة التي سن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم معها. قال تعالى إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين وإن كنتم جنبا فطهروا وقال ولا جنبا إلا عابر سبيل حتى تغتسلوا. إذن هذه الطهارة في الأولى فسرتها الثانية الغسل دون الوضوء. When Allah has ordered that when you go to prayer, you wash your face, you wash your hands to the elbows, you wipe on your head, and you wash your feet. And if you are in a state of janaba, you need to purify yourself. How you purify yourself? The Surah Nisa said, وَلَا جُنُبًا, in the state of janaba, you don't approach the masjid or the salah, إِلَّا عَابِرِ سَبِيلٍ, just crossing, until you have ghusl, full washing. So here, taharu, purify yourself. The other I explained, it is ghusl, means the full washing, head to toe. فأبان أن طهارة الجنوب الغسل دون الوضوء. وسن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم باقي سنن الوضوء فغسل وجهه ويديه إلى المرفقين ومسح برأسه وغسل رجليه إلى القدمين وروى عن ابن عباس النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ مرة وتوضأ مرتين وتوضأ ثلاثة. فسن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وضوء مرة فوافق ذلك ظاهر القرآن، وذلك أقل ما يقع عليه اسم الغسل، واحتمل أكثر وسنه مرتين وثلاثا، أي أن السنة تقع بالمرة الواحدة تكون موافقة للقرآن، ذكرت مرة واحدة الغسل والمسح، وتقع أيضا بسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فعل اثنتين وفعل ثلاث. So during the wudu is mentioned once, washing the face and washing the hands, wiping and washing, mentioned once. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his sunnah, he did that, where he done once, but he also done it twice, and he also done it 3 times. Most of the time he done it 3 times. So his sunnah, part of it was exactly as Quran, part of it adding more, because it's all coming from Allah, it's inspiration. So we cannot say he contradicted Quran, he expanded an order that came from Allah. وهذا بيان السنة مع بيان القرآن. So this is the Sunnah explaining what's in Quran. Although in Quran is expanded, the Sunnah confirmed it and expanded first, more. وسن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في الغسل من الجنابة غسل الفرج والوضوء كوضوء الصلاة ثم الغسل فكذلك أحببنا أن نفعل. And then when the ghusl in Quran mentioned wash, so it means head to toe. The Sunnah, first you start washing the private, then making wudu, then you making ghusl. So although just washing from head to toe is enough, this is minimum. What is better to follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wash the privates, make the wudu, then you make the ghusl. باب الفرض المنصوص الذي دلت السنة على أنه إنما أراد الخاص. So now he's going to say about there's certain orders in Quran that insinuate a general meaning, but the Sunnah explaining that it is for a specific meaning. All the ayat of Mirath, who inherits what? The Sunnah of Rasulullah sallam put conditions to it. And we mentioned before, a Muslim cannot inherit from non-Muslim, or non-Muslim cannot inherit from Muslim. So even if their fathers, their mothers, they were married, their children, whatever, if they're not in the same religion, they cannot inherit. It's not mentioned in the Quran. So here, the hadith specified the meaning. That's not mentioned. It was mentioned general in Quran, and the hadith specified. They say, well, the condition is that they're both on the same religion, and that no one killed the other. So if a person killed his father, the rest of the family has a choice. Either they can punish him for killing him or forgive him. If they choose to forgive him, he doesn't inherit from his father. He's a killer. So there are conditions that mentioned in Sunnah. فجاء في السنة أن من شروط المواريث أن يجتمع دين الوارث والموروث فلا يختلفان ويكونان من أهل دار الإسلام ومن له عقد من المسلمين يأمن به على ماله ودمه أو يكونان من المشركين فيتورثان بالشرك. قال عن عمرو بن عثمان بن أسامة بن زيد أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يرث المسلم الكافر ولا الكافر المسلم. إذن حديث صريح في هذا. The text of the hadith Rasulullah sallam, a Muslim cannot inherit a kafir cannot inherit a Muslim. وأن يكون الوارث والموروث حرين مع الإسلام. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من باع عبدا وله مال فماله للبائع إلا أن يشترطه المبتاع. And that both need to be free, because at that time the slave and everything owned is for the owner. If he sold them, he's selling whatever with him. So the child cannot inherit from him. Nowadays it doesn't apply, but that was the way it is then. ويجب البراءة من القتل لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس لقاتل شيء. And the hadith said, a killer can never inherit anything from the one that he killed. وقال تعالى لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. هذا نص عام، أي عقد بيع وشراء تراضوا البائعان فهو حلال، لكن فيه له خصوص. قال تعالى إنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا، حتى لا توافق الطرفان على بيع هو ربا فلا يجوز. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah has instructed the believers, you shouldn't take the money from one another unjustly unless buying and seller are both agreeable to it. So that means any kind of transaction, the buyer and the seller, they agree to it, is permissible. This is a general text. Well, there are texts on Quran specifying it, except it's riba. Even both agree that somebody will borrow money from another person, pay him with interest later on. This is haram. It's forbidden. So you cannot say, oh, that tells me as long as the deal we both agree to it, it is halal. But here there's a text of Quran tell you, riba, buying and selling or borrowing with interest is haram, is forbidden. ونهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن بيوع تراضى بها المتبايعان. And there are other forms of buying and selling, not mentioned in the Quran. Rasulullah said it's not allowed. It's like buying and selling gold with gold. They should be the same weight. So let's say you have a raw piece of gold. You find it in the ground. You got a gold nugget. And you want to buy a bracelet of gold. So this one is 1 pound, this is less than 1 pound. It cannot be. You sell it and buy it, but if you're going to use weight, it should be the same. The same thing with the silver. And I've seen it in Muslim countries. If you have old gold, you want to sell it and buy a new bracelet. They will not weigh it and run this and give you. Say, no, we're going to make 2 deals. This old gold, we're going to take it with weight. This is the amount of money you take with it. This new gold, you're going to buy it. It's going to be weight and extra fee for the craftsmanship in it. It's 2 separate deals. So they do the first deal. You give them the gold, they give you the money in your hand. So deal done. It's not if you say, oh, now we owe you, or you have money from us 1,000. No, here's the 1,000 in your hand. Now you want to buy this bracelet. This bracelet is for 1,200. You give me 1,200, you buy. 2 separate deals. So this is not mentioned in the Quran. It's mentioned in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one cannot say, oh, the ayah said, as long as we're agreeable, we can do it. Here the Sunnah specifying it, you cannot deal this kind of buying and selling. وحرم أيضا مما فيه التبايع بما فيه مخاطرة أو يجهله البائع أو المشتري. So when you're buying something that's risky, that you don't know what you're buying or what you're selling. I've got a box. I tell you, do you want to buy what's in the box for $100? He said yes. Even agree it's not allowed. You see some people, they do it with the storage box. When somebody sometimes doesn't pay the rent, after a while they will auction it. And people will they will open the drape for the storage, just let them take a peek and close it. Sometimes will not even do it. Who's gonna buy it? 100, 200, 300, 500, you go, you open it, it's all junk. Or you open it, you find in it antiques worth 10,000. It's haram. It's like you don't know what you're buying. So this kind of risky buying and selling is haram. ومن دلس على البائع المشتري بعيب فللمشتري رده. And when you buy from somebody and he doesn't tell you the truth, you're buying a car. This car, the engine is gonna, you know that there's something wrong with it. Like in a week or so, it's gonna break down. Don't tell him that. He buy it from you, a week, it breaks down. Come back to him. If he knew about it, he knew this, something broken, something needs to be changed, and he doesn't tell you about it, you have the right to cancel the transaction and get your money back, if you can prove it. But at least it's not haram, it's not halal. It's the one who knows this is cheating others, it's haram for him. Say, oh, we all agree to it. I told him the car as is. Well, if you know there's a big problem with it, it's not obvious, you need to tell him about it. As is something you don't know. You bought a used car, you drove it as good. You tell the person, I'm not getting any guarantee, I drove it. This is what you look at, it's scratch from here and there, it drove with me. I don't know, in a week from now, a month from now, something will break down. I don't know about it, I don't guarantee it. Nothing wrong with that, but if you know something, then you should have told him. جمل الفرائض. قال تعالى إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا وقال وأقيموا الصلاة. إذن الأمران فيهما أمر. حين قال الصلاة كانت على كتابا موقوتا مثل وأقيموا الصلاة أمر. So the way that the order comes in Quran, it can come directly or indirectly. Like saying that Salah on the believers is a prescribed book. That means it has a specific time. It is an order to do Salah on time. The other ayah says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, establish the Salah. So what's the direct order? The one is describing the situation of the Salah. Both of them are orders. So just saying, oh, telling Salah is a prescribed time doesn't tell me you have to pray. It tells you you have to pray. So just because it didn't use the order form of the verb doesn't mean it's not an order. It is an order. وقال تعالى ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. It's the right of Allah on people to make Hajj to the house of Allah when they are capable. Does that make it a fard? Yeah, it makes it a fard. So, I mean, you have to make Hajj. Anytime you're able, you have no reason not to, it's an obligation, you make Hajj. قال الشافعي أحكم الله فرضه في كتابه في الصلاة والزكاة والحج وبين كيف فرضه على لسان نبيه فأخبر أن عدد الصلوات المفروضات 5 وأن عدد الظهر والعصر والعشاء في الحضر 4 وعدد المغرب 3 وعدد الصبح 2. So the order came from the Quran. You have to establish Salah. How? The Sunnah of Rasulullah told us 5 Salah. Told us when to do it. Told us 4 Ruk'ah on Dhuhr, Asr and Isha as why you're in urban area, not traveling. And Maghrib is 3 and Fajr is 2. وَسَنَّ فِيهَا كُلُّهَا قِرَاءَةً. And he told us what we recite in this surah. وَسَنَّ أَنَّ الْجَهْرَ مِنْهَا بِالْقِرَاءَةِ فِي الْمَغْرِبِ وَالْعِشَاءِ وَالصُّبْحِ. That you read aloud in Fajr, Maghrib and Isha. And you read privately in Asr and Dhuhr and Asr. وأن المخافة بالقراءة في الظهر والعصر. وسن أن الفرض في الدخول في كل صلاة بتكبير والخروج منها بتسليم. إذن تحريم الصلاة تكبيرها والتحلل منها التسليم. ما ورد هذا في القرآن. And that the salah, you cannot enter salah until you say Allahu Akbar. Whether you start from the beginning or you come late, you have to say Allahu Akbar before you start. And you cannot finish it, salah is not complete until you say Assalamu Alaikum, at least once. Where is it in the Quran it is yet? It's not there. It's the Sunnah of Rasulullah explaining it because it is an inspiration from Allah. So it's not saying, oh, he brought it on his own, he's the one put it. This is what Allah had taught him. وأن يؤتى فيها بتكبير ثم قراءة ثم ركوع ثم سجدتين بعد الركوع وما سوى هذا من حدودها. And then tells you after the takbir, you make qira'ah, you make ruku', you make sujood, and so on, with all the details of the salah. وسن في صلاة السفر قصرا كلما كانت أربعا من الصلوات إن شاء المسافر وإثبات المغرب والصبح على حالهما في الحضر وأن كلها إلى القبلة مسافرا كان أو مقيما إلا في حال الخوف من الخوف واحدة. زي حالات الخوف ذكرنا في صلاة الخوف لها حالات. إذا التحم الجيشان أو كانت الخوف من الالتحام شديد يصلوا تجاه العدو وإن كان مخالفا للقبلة. أما إذا كان العدو حولهم وما زال عندهم مأمن وانقسم قسم يحرس وقسم يصلوا إلى القبلة. فإذا اشتد الخوف يصلوا حيثما كان حتى لو لم يكن إلى القبلة. فوقت الصلاة أولى من التوجه إلى القبلة لأن الفرائض تتفاوت. And then Rasulullah sallam explained to us that when you're traveling, you have the option or the sunnah of Rasulullah sallam when you're traveling to make the salah, the 4 rak'ah 2. But Isha, the Maghrib stays 3 and Fajr stays 2. In Quran, it tells you can make the 4 rak'ah 2 in a state of fear and war. It doesn't say in traveling. Rasulullah sallam said in traveling. So he explained it. And then every time when you pray, you need to face Mecca. It's in Quran. It tells you فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. You need to face Masjid al-Haram. But instead of severe fear during war, when actually fighting about to happen, you keep your face towards the enemy. You're not going to turn your back to them. And you pray on time. So prayer on time take precedence on praying in the right direction. وَسَنَّ أَنَّ النَّوَافِلِ مِثْلَ حَالِهَا. And he explained to us that when you pray nafila, optional, is the same as when you pray a fard prayer. Except in nafila you're allowed to pray while riding on your horse or camel without stepping down, even if you can. And fard, if you can step down, you have to step down. If you can't, that's a different issue. But in nafila, even if you can, you have the option, just stay on your right and pray wherever it takes you in direction. وأخبرنا ابن أبي فديك عن ابن أبي ذئب عن عثمان بن عبد الله بن سراقة عن جابر بن عبد الله أن رسول الله في غزوة بني أنمار كان يصلي على راحلته متوجها قبل المشرق بعيدا عن القبلة. إذن هذا في سفر، هذا في صلاة النافلة ولم يكن فيه التحام، مجرد في الطريق. The narration that once Rasulullah sallam was on his way to fight people. The fighting hasn't started, there's no fear, nothing, but it was an optional sunnah prayer. He was on his right, his camel was going towards the east where they're heading, far away from Mecca, Mecca in the back of them. So wherever it went, he was praying that. وسن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في صلاة الأعياد والاستسقاء سنة الصلوات في عدد الركوع والسجود. وسن في صلاة الكسوف فزاد فيها ركعة على ركعات الصلوات فجعل في كل ركعة ركعتين. And say like صلاة العيد, it's not mentioned in Quran. You pray Eid, tells you that. How many ruk'ah, how you do it, what the khutbah, he mentioned that. The same thing in istisqa. And then in Salat al-Kusuf has a different description from all other salah, because there are 2 ruk'ah and 2 sujood. So after takbir, reading Fatiha, reading surah, you make a ruku', you stand up, you read again Fatiha, you read another surah, you make another ruku', then you go down, make 2 sujood. So rak'atayn and sajdatain in each rak'ah. Different from all other salawat. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وقال تعالى إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا فبين رسول الله عن الله تلك المواقيت وصلى الصلوات لوقتها. So in the order, Surah An-Nisa, that prayer is prescribed on the believer as a prescribed written time, Rasulullah told us when these times are, the 5 prayers. فحوصر يوم الأحزاب فلم يقدر على الصلاة في وقتها فأخرها للعذر حتى صلى الظهر والعصر والمغرب والعشاء في مقام واحد. But once in the battle of Ahzab, the fighting was so fierce, they couldn't pray Dhuhr or Asr or Maghrib until the time of Isha. So the 4 prayers were prayed at the time of Isha because they were doing the fighting. So when the ayat came later on, the hadith حبسنا يوم الخندق عن الصلاة حتى كان بعد المغرب بهوي من الليل حتى كفينا وذلك قول الله وكفى الله المؤمنين القتال وكان الله قويا عزيزا فدعا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا فأمره فأقام الظهر فصلاها فأحسن صلاتها كما كان يصليها في وقتها ثم أقام العصر فصلاها هكذا ثم أقام المغرب فصلاها هكذا ثم أقام العشاء فصلاها كذلك أيضا قال وذلك قبل أن ينزل في صلاة الخوف فرجالا أو ركبانا. إذا فعلوا هذا قبل أن ينزل الأمر أنه يستطيع أن يصلوا متفرقين رجالا أو ركبانا يصلوها في وقتها. So in غزوة الأحزاب, when they couldn't pray the 4 prayers, they prayed it all in one time. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered Bilal for each salah they make iqamah, they prayed as if it was on time. This was before the ayah said فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, when you're afraid, you pray رِجَالًا أو رُكْبَانًا, riding or walking. So from that day on, even if they're state of fear, if they're fighting, they still pray. It's like there's any in front of him, he say Allah Akbar, he make his ruku', his sujood slightly, he's looking at the enemy, but he's going to pray in time. So this is what's explained later. أخبرنا مالك عن يزيد بن رومان عن صالح بن خوات عن من صلى مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة الخوف يوم ذات الرقاع أن طائفة صفت معه وطائفة وجاه العدو فصلى بالذين معه ركعة ثم ثبت قائما وأتموا لأنفسهم ثم انصرفوا فصفوا وجاه العدو وجاءت الطائفة الأخرى فصلى بهم الركعة التي بقيت من صلاته ثم ثبت جالسا وأتموا لأنفسهم ثم سلم بهم. So the next fighting after the Salatul Khawf was prescribed, it happened. Rasulullah came with the believers, the enemy in front of them. So half of the army was facing the enemy, the other half prayed with him. So he gonna pray 2 rak'ah. Now they're gonna be praying Dhuhr or Asr. Usually there was no fighting at night. So one of the prayers, either Dhuhr or Asr, he will make the adhan, make the iqamah, takbir. He prayed the first rak'ah. Finished the first rak'ah, he sat down. They finished the second rak'ah and made taslim. They left the other group. Now they took a guard. The group was guarding, came to him. He stood up. They prayed the second. He prayed the second rak'ah for them was the first rak'ah. He sat down and waited for them. They prayed the second rak'ah. When they sat down, he made taslim for both of them. So that was one way of doing it. فسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تقوم الحجة على الناس بها حتى يكونوا إنما صاروا من سنته إلى سنته التي بعدها فنسخ الله تأخير الصلاة عن وقتها في الخوف إلى أن يصلوها كما أنزل الله وسن رسوله في وقتها ونسخ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سنته في تأخيرها بفرض الله في كتابه ثم بسنته فصلاها في وقتها كما وصفت. So you have a sunnah first. Rasulullah was feared, he delayed all the salawat. And then this was cancelled because the ayah of Salatul Khawf came. So the ayah and his sunnah cancelled the first action. Now Allah made it easier for the believers not to miss their salah on time. فدلت سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على أن القبلة في المكتوبة على فرضها أبدا إلا في الموضع الذي لا يمكن فيه الصلاة إليها وذلك عند المسابقة والهرب صلاة الطالب والمطلوب وفي هذا المعنى الذي لا يمكن فيه الصلاة إليها. So in these states of fear it's telling us we are ordered to pray towards Qibla, general order, unless you can't. You're chasing the enemy chasing you. Time for the salah. By the time you're done, they might be chasing you for hours. Salah will be out. While you're running after them or they're running after you, you pray, wherever you are. So you do it on time. وثبتت السنة ألا تترك الصلاة في وقتها كيفما أمكنت المصلي. So the final sunnah, you always pray on time in whatever condition or state that you can. So how about if somebody doesn't have water? You don't have water. If you can combine Dhuhr and Asr, you wait. But how about Dhuhr and Asr will go away and Maghrib will come, you don't have water? How about your clothes is not clean? You need to wash them. You do it on time, even if they're not clean. On time takes precedence. So inshallah we'll stop here. Next time he's going to give an examples of the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ in zakah. So here, what you're trying to see, Imam al-Shafi'i trying to establish the idea that a general text of Quran can be explained for other texts of Quran, make it more general, make it more specific, cancel general meaning, give a specific meaning, and the same thing apply in Sunnah. So nobody say, oh, I'm just going to follow the Quran, I'm not going to follow. You cannot. You have to. And this is what makes Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, their rulings of fiqh consistent, because they follow the same rules. The people of ahwa, people of following own desires, even they say we follow the Quran, but they explain it their way. And you find anybody that doesn't follow the Sunnah, each one groups and groups, they never agree. Although all of them say we follow the Quran, we're following Arabic language and our understanding, but they don't agree on it. So that's why you find any deviated group are separate, they don't agree on one thing. There's one haqq, one nur. There's multiple batil, multiple dhulumat. So, يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. One light, one guide, one way. This is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, following the Quran, following the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, following Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You cannot say, oh, I'm a Muslim, but I'm going to follow this way. I'm not going to follow the saying of the Sahaba. I'm not going to follow the ulama. The saying, well, you follow one of these deviated paths. It's not going to lead you to Jannah. So that's what Imam Shafi is trying to establish. And with it, he's establishing that even if there is some disagreement between the ulama of madahib, like he might have disagreed a little bit with Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they all agree on the principles. The intention is to find the orders of Allah, the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't intend to disagree, but sometimes the text can have different meanings, or one of them have a text that others don't. You have a hadith that came to him through a trustworthy narration. The other alim, he got the same text, but the one narrated to him wasn't trustworthy. He cannot make his own ruling according to something for him not trustworthy. So they might differ in little details. But each one respected the others. Never say, oh, this is mubtadi'ah, he's fabricating stuff. They all respected one another. So inshallah, this is what we're trying to establish by studying the book of Risala for Imam Shafi'i. If anybody has a question, we'll answer. Otherwise, we're done. Yes, sir.
Earlier, you spoke about like purchasing things that you don't know the value of. An example can probably be like health insurance, since you don't necessarily know when you'll be sick. Is there like an alternative to this that we know of that could possibly be permissible?
So the brother was talking about the example of buying something you don't know what you get in return. Is buying insurance, and an example of it is health insurance. And we said the general rule, insurance as a principle is haram, but in some cases it is a must because you have no other option. So one of it, like you're gonna drive a car. They're not gonna let you drive a car unless you have car insurance. You don't need it, rather not do it, but the law, you cannot drive without it. The health insurance becoming as a necessity. The healthcare system is built on that you have insurance, they build insurance, otherwise you're going to get bankrupt for one visit to the hospital or ER. So you end up needing to do it because it is darura, not because the principle of it is allowed. The principle that's allowed is collaborative insurance. Collaborative insurance, let's say we are Muslim, there's like 10,000 Muslims in this city. We say we're gonna do collaborative insurance. Each one of us would pay for each member of his family $100. And we're gonna agree on certain conditions when we're gonna help. If you just visiting a doctor for a toothache or prescribed medicine, you pay out of pocket. But somebody go to the hospital, he has a bill, we put a number with it. Anything above $50,000, we're gonna pay him that amount. And we all agree to it. End of the year, there's extra money that's left. Okay, what are we gonna do with that extra money? Either we return it back, or next year we make this amount deduction less, or we do a general charity or something like this. Nobody benefiting from it. We can pay salary to the people who are taking the account. We have a building, we have accountants, we have people doing it. We can pay them, but nobody has stocks in it and becoming millionaires from it. So this is acceptable form of insurance, collaborative insurance. Commercial insurance, no, is built on, I'm gonna pay something, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna make profit. This profit gonna go to the owners, those who have stockholders, and I'm gonna give bonuses to people who are running the scheme, so it will encourage them to make more money. So you end up with somebody running United Health making like $150 million a year. And the stockholders, depending how much you hold, they're making millions or billions. So this is the one, this commercial is not halal by itself, but it's becoming darura, a must. What can do? What other options do you have? A lot of people run, they say, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'd rather risk it, not to do it. Yeah, sometimes you have to. So you judge it. I remember at some point I was out of insurance, left my work at university, was preparing to go overseas, and we had a delivery coming. So we made a deal with the hospital and the doctors and told them, okay, how much you want ahead of time. So we paid a certain amount of money and said, well, this is gonna cover you for normal delivery. But if it turned out to be surgical, the cesarean section, there is neonatal ICU, it's not covered, it's going to be extra. I said, okay, I'm going to take that chance. We did it then. But sometimes you cannot do that. So you do your best judgment in this case. I think one of the brothers had a question there in the back. Yeah. Yeah, the sunnah is the rest, and the action of the Sahaba, they cauterize it so a person doesn't die. Because the idea is, if you cut it and you don't cauterize it, they bleed to death. So the punishment is not death. So they usually cauterize it, either with the hot iron or boiling oil. So they wrap like a tourniquet around it, they cut it off, and they cauterize the wound. So a person will not die. Yeah, there's no pain. They hold them down. That's part of the punishment. And it has to be done in public. So people know theft, hand is cut off. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you have a follow-up on your question?
I wanted to ask about this.
Yeah.
So now with anesthesia, we wouldn't be able to do that? Like it's part of the pain, like the punishment?
I don't know, I have to ask all of them. I haven't read anything from nowadays whether they should feel the pain or not. I cannot tell you my opinion. I haven't read anything there. And then nowadays, I don't know if anybody carrying that punishment anywhere in the world. So even in countries that supposedly follow the Sharia, I've never heard about them cutting the hand of anybody. Yes.
You mentioned a Muslim that inherits kafir. So for a Muslim that has parents that are Muslims, when they die, we can't do anything for that.
Yeah, so let's say they're living in a non-Muslim country, the inheritance have to go somewhere. If he let it go, it's gonna go to the bank, go to the government, and so on. He will take the money, but not for himself, and he can donate it for general benefit of people. But as a rule, it's not his money. Yeah.
You mentioned about Malta marriage. I've heard there were many Maltas that came at this time.
Yeah.
This is the one that is
Yeah, because his muwatta was the most accurate, most authentic. At that time, the ulama of hadith, a lot of them, they've done what they call musnad. Musnad, everything narrated from the Sahabi. So this is Musnad Aisha, this is Musnad Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, and so on. But they were not put on categories of fiqh. This is Iman, this is Tuhur, this is Salah, this is Zakah, and so on. Imam Malik, his book, the beauty of it, that he put it on this category where for a student of knowledge it's easy for him. I need to know what ahadith mentioning on Siyam. He have one chapter about Siyam. In the other narrations, well, you look in Aisha what's mentioned in Siyam, then you look a bit Abbas mentioned Siyam, you look in every Sa'ab, so it was harder. So he made it, that's why it's Muwatta, make it easier for the students of knowledge to benefit from the hadith right away. Not only hadith, he mentioned in it the athar that came from the Sahaba and from the Tabi'een. From it, because if you don't find something in Quran hadith, you need to see what the Sahaba have talked about it, or their students when they talked about it. At that time, this is what they followed. It's better than making your own judgment. You use the judgment of people who are closer to the source of knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And a lot of ulama, they followed the Imam Malik. They said even with the narrations that he had weakness in it, or not connected chain, they found other hadith proving it. The same thing with Imam al-Bukhari. All his hadith that he brought the chain of narration in it, authentic, nobody did agree with it. But there's certain narration in his book, he doesn't mention the chain of narration because it doesn't qualify under his strict rules for his book, but he knows it's authentic. So when the ulama followed these, they found the chain of narration of it was authentic, acceptable, but not according to the strict criteria put for his book. So he mentioned the ruling, and he mentioned the saying of the Sahabi or so on, without mentioning chain of narration, although it's authentic. He's just being accurate. SubhanAllah. Islam.
Stock market investment, like for example S&P 500 investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an investment that you put directly to a specific company. It's a pool of companies. Is it permissible?
So the brother asking about investing in an index fund. So let's say the SP 500, a lot of people are investing in it because the companies in it, most of it are tech companies. So they have less dealing with haram stuff than blue chips and big companies. I'm not an expert in that matter, but you need still these companies, although their general business is halal, they're selling computers, they're making cars, they're making electronic stuff, but each of them have holding in some haram companies, where they have holdings in banks and so on, and the fuqaha who deal with the Islamic transaction, they also look at what they call debt to holding and revenue. If a company has a large amount of debt, that means they're paying interest. And they put the number, I don't know, 5%, 10%, something like this. More than this, they say this is haram. This company is dealing with interest, basically. So you have a company that's starting new, and they're making 10 million a year, but they borrowed 100 million. So whatever they're making, most of it they're paying interest. So even if they make money at the end of the year, a lot of it is paying interest. You're not allowed to invest in it. So you need somebody who's experienced. Alhamdulillah, more and more people, smaller companies that are trying to go through Islamic investing to varying degrees. I cannot tell you that they're all halal, but they're trying their best. So at least if you have to do it, let's say working with a company that give you a retirement account. This is what usually people face. You have an IRA, that you're allowed to contribute, I don't know, 10%, 15%, and the company will match it. You don't want to lose this money. Some of them, they have their own investment. They're only investing one kind of bond or stock. You cannot go around it. Or they give you the choice. You go to a financial advisor. So you're trying to find Sharia compliant investment in it. And a lot of them are buying stocks from the SP 500. I remember years ago I was working with university, so I tried to do that. I talked to the investor. I said, I don't want anything that deal with banks or pork or alcohol or guns. Oh, so he told me, do you want Sharia compliant bond? I said, yes. Is there such a thing? Oh, yeah, we have Sharia compliant. And this was like an American company, regular company. So now becoming very prominent. But still, even with that, inshallah, when it comes to retirement, I'm going to look at my contributions and I'm going to just take it. Any profit I made of it, I'm going to donate it. I don't know how much of it's clean, how much is not. I'm mostly trying to use it for tax benefit and the contribution from the company. Because right now, you don't pay taxes with that money. If I take it now, I'm paying higher taxes. When I retire, I'm going to be making less money, so I'll be paying less taxes. So do it in a legal way, but at the same time, for the haram part, I'll look at what my contribution over years was, pure money I gave. Whatever benefit I get out of it, I'll try to donate it, and I don't have to worry about it, how much of it is clean, how much is not. Allahu Akbar.
What about the union?
Union.
Like some jobs will try to, not force you, but, sign you up automatically.
So you make your best judgment. Most of the unions are helpful. So in a sense, when you make a contribution, they help you with negotiation, you get protection against being dismissed and so on. And some of them, their dealing is not. So you need to look at it. If it's purely collaborative, nobody making money out of it, you're the workers, 10,000 people working here, you're contributing to union protect whenever somebody, let's say there's a layoff or there's a strike or something, they pay them and so on. And at the end, nobody is pocketing money in the budget. This is collaborative. So
you just lose. I mean, say, I know a guy who's been for 10 years working, paying in the union, and so I talked with him, and he hasn't used anything.
Yeah. So you make your judgment in this case. Is there something that is important for me? Is it going to help me and help the people I'm working with? It's worth it for me? You do it. If it's not, it's not. Because at the end here, you're helping one another. Here, it's not a service you're buying. It's not insurance. You workers trying to support one another. You contributed money. You need to see where that money of the union is going to. So if this money of union is going to help, let's say somebody got disabled, couldn't work, they're paying them money or paying his widow or whatever, yeah, you're helping one another. But at the end, nobody pocketing. So you're not buying a service, you're contributing to helping one another. So this is a form of collaborative insurance, which is allowed in Islam. As long as the way it is spent is fair and there's nobody pocketing it. But if you feel you don't need it, and it's a waste of money, you don't have to do it. It's your choice. And that's one of the things about it, has to be by choice. So you choose, you think, yes, I'm going to be helping. We have 10,000 of us working in this factory. Sometimes somebody might have a disaster. We might every month contribute a certain amount of money and help them with it. That's what it, but a lot of times it becomes political. So these union leaders will become, I don't know, can twist the arm of somebody else. They become rich and everybody else not. So you need to know the details of it. So inshallah we'll finish here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Yes, yeah, brother? Oh, we have questions from the sisters. Here one. It's written in yellow. So I need to read it. So the question here for a woman, is it haram to cut out facial hair? What is mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ as reported by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, that لَعَنَ اللَّهُ النَّامِصَ وَالْمُتَنَمِّصَ, that Allah has cursed the woman that plucks her eyebrows or the one she does it, or one who asks others to do it for her. So that means the eyebrows are haram. How about other type of facial hair? There is difference of ulama. Some say, oh, eyebrows means everything else. A lot of ulama say no. If they say a woman has a lot of facial hair, almost like a beard, or has a mustache, that she's allowed to remove it. They consider it as harm. They not consider it as beautifying or changing the creation of the eyebrows. Allah created everybody's different. Some the eyebrows are totally connected, some are thin, some are thick, some have almost none. You need to accept it as it. This is a facial feature, you shouldn't change it. The rest of it, a woman, if she has extra hair on her cheeks or on where the mustache is, a lot of ulama consider it as an abnormal condition rather than being the normal. So they're allowed to change it. Saying that, I know a lot of the ulama in Saudi Arabia saying changing the color of the hair is permissible. So a woman, if her eyebrows very thick, she used a bleaching agent, which changed the color of it, is allowed, because changing the color of the hair in general is permissible. So for the eyebrows, they're allowed to use a bleach, but not to remove the hair by shaving it or plucking it or lasering it. For the face and the mustache, a lot of the ulama say it is permissible to remove, so this way she doesn't look like a man, and it is harmful for her. It's more like harm than a natural feature that Allah has created for her. And a lot of them could be either genetic or hormonal sometimes. Certain hormonal imbalance can do it. Sometimes there's genetic, certain ethnic group, they have more hair and so on. But I know a lot of ulama say that it is permissible. Yes.
Coloring your hair black is haram.
Hmm.
Same thing with the eyebrows or beard.
Yeah, the same thing. Using the color black by itself, that's the one was specified. Other than that, with the caveat, you're not trying to resemble people who are known to be kafir or fasiq. So you're not trying to imitate a movie star, you're not trying to imitate somebody who's known to be a bad person.
Sheikh, the sisters had two more questions, if you don't mind. It was, what is the Islamic way to deal with a friendship that pulls you away from the deen?
يوم يقول يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا يا ليتني لم اتخذ فلانا خليلا لقد أضل عن الذكر بعد إذ جاءني. In the day of judgment, the person will be biting his hands out of regret that he chose certain people as a close friend that took him away from the straight path. So a relation that's going to bring you farther away from Allah, you need to limit that relation. The relation between Allah is the most important one. Sometimes there's relations that you are a positive effect on others. So although they're not very good people, but you see a positive influence you have on them. You can keep that relation. If you're feeling it's the other way around, the negative influence is afflicting you, you limit it more and more, and you find a wise way of explaining it to them. You might be sometimes very frank, say, for me, being a good Muslim, practicing Muslim is very important for me. I feel in being with you, I'm not able to do that. You play music all the time, you drink, you go into parties, you have girlfriends and so on, and this is against my teaching. I like you guys as people, but this is something I cannot do. If we can find a way where we don't do that, and so on, that's fine. If not, then I'm afraid we have to limit it. So, your relation with Allah comes first.
And the last question was, what is the best way to maintain good character? What is the best way to maintain good character with people who wrong you?
Who wrong you?
Exactly.
So whatever you do it for the sake of Allah. People who wrong you, there are different ways to deal with them. You can exact revenge on them, equal exactly what they wronged you. That's the maximum that you can do. Or you can forgive them. You do whatever you think gonna lead to more positive outcome. Somebody can wrong you sometime, but it doesn't make a big difference. You're gonna buy something for 10 and somebody cheated you, made you pay 20. Yeah, I lost $10. I mean, what's the big deal with it? Forgive it. But somebody that's your life savings, you had 10,000, 50,000, and he is trying to get, he cheated you out of it, you have the right to get it back from him. Legal ways, not causing harm for them. So when somebody wrong you, the maximum you can do is exact justice. But it is recommended, if it's going to lead to better outcome, that you forgive. There are certain people you shouldn't forgive because their harm going to extend to others. People who are stealing from multiple people, lying to multiple, you need to report them to the judge and so on. They stop them for your sake and for others, so they don't do it again. But sometimes it could be a one-time thing, it could be a weakness and so on, then you forgive. And the levels of harm people do to you is different levels. Could be financial, it could be social, could be emotional, could be with your relations. So being a generous person, a kind person, is highly recommended than being after vengeance and revenge. Revenge and vengeance usually make the person sour inside. It burns inside you. So as long as it's going to lead to better outcome, you forgive. You don't forgive, it's going to lead to worse outcome, whether it's for you or for others. If somebody continue bullying you or taking what is not, and is going to continue to do it, you need to find a way to stop them, because it's not stopping. A one-time thing, you might let it go. So you have to be the best judge of it. At the end, you're going to see, is that something Allah's going to be pleased with or not? وإياكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.